I'm Tracy Osborne, and you're listening to the Daring Woman podcast. Imagine the story of a generation being altered by women who were empowered to live their truth and in turn can empower others to live theirs. It's time to rewrite the narrative. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode. Most of you know, if you've been listening for a while, you've been following me for a while, you know that I lost my husband at the end of May. And, along with that comes incredible grief and depression and just this amazing flood of emotions. And I don't say amazing in a good way. People would ask me, how are you doing? And I can't say I'm okay. I can't say I'm good. I say I am good right now in this moment, because who knows what's going to happen in 5 minutes. I could be bawling my eyes out. My guest today, Tandee Salter, is also no stranger to grief. And she is coming on the show to share her story about her loss and what she's gone through and how she's been able to move forward through that grief and depression. So Tandee, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here with you today.
Well, I am thrilled to have you. I always love getting to know people, and I love being able to allow women to come on and share their stories, because it's so important. So with that being said, why don't you tell us your story?
Okay, I can do that. Okay, so in 2009, March 30th, 2009, I lost my mother. She had been struggling with cancer, and I remember I was actually at work. I got a call, and my supervisor was like, Tandee, we need you to come to the office. You have a phone call. I'm like, who's calling me at work? And it was my stepfather on the phone. It's like, you need to get to the hospital quick. And so my heart is racing, and I'm like, I'm leaving work. Everybody's like, do you need a ride, or can we help you? I was like, no, I got it. So I get in the car, drive down the highway, which seemed like it took forever when it was really only about 10 minutes to get to the hospital from where I was working. But it seemed like it took forever. And I get there, I park the car. I actually hit someone else's car and messed up my light, my front headlight, but theirs was a truck, so they had no damage. And I guess they understood the situation, so they didn't worry about it. Kept going, and then the elevator, I was like, oh my gosh, will the elevator hurry up and come? It didn't come. And so I got on the elevator, and I'm walking down the hallway. I see some of my family members sitting in the waiting area. And I go past the nurse's station to my mom's room where she was in ICU. And overnight, things had took a turn for the worse. And she had been hooked up to a ventilator. And in my eyes, it seemed like every machine in the hospital. Mm-hmm. And so by this time, a family friend had also arrived who had picked up my sisters from school. And so it's 5 of us. My mother had 5 children. So 5 of us in the room, my stepfather. We're all sitting there like, what's going to happen next? And so in the meantime, the doctors walk in the room to kind of check on my mother and see how things are going. And they asked us to leave the room. As we're leaving, it's like we saw all the nurses rush that way. And we turned around, and I see the infamous blue light. My heart dropped, because me being the nerd that I am, I read everything and had watched plenty of shows such as Grey's Anatomy, where I said, oh no, that's not a good thing. And that was the day my mother passed. And it was horrible, because she was not only my mother, she was my best friend, my number one cheerleader, and my supporter. And I had no idea what I was going to do next.
And it's not something that you can prepare for. I don't care how much advance notice you have. When my dad died, we had, doctors had given him 6 months, and he lasted 7. And that still wasn't enough time to prepare me for when he died. You can't. So what happened next?
The next thing that happened is like we went through the process of planning the memorial service. We had my mother cremated. We had a memorial service, and the family gathered, and everyone is grieving. But I was the person that everyone leaned on for strength and encouragement. Everyone counted on me to be strong. So it was actually a while before I actually sat down and cried.
Right.
I kind of held everything in because I had to be the strong person for everyone else. And maybe 3 months later, I sat down with my then husband, and he was trying to get me to talk to him, and I wouldn't talk. And so one of his aunts was trying to talk to me and told me I couldn't keep everything bottled up, and I just broke down. Everything in me spilled out, and I cried, and I didn't know what to do. Just like the tears wouldn't stop.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, this was part of where I found myself in depression. I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I was kind of going through the motions, but not really living my life, just doing whatever had to be done to pay the bills. And at that time, I was also in my senior year of college, to just pay the bills, finish school, and try to figure it out from there. But I was truly unhappy. I was miserable.
Yeah.
And I just had no idea where I was with myself.
Depression's a nightmare in and of itself. Never mind all the rest of the stuff that goes along with, just the causes and the grief and whatever else we have to go through. But depression is so debilitating. And, for those of you who are listening who may have, you're one of the lucky ones who's never been through depression, it's so hard to understand. It's, well, you're depressed, get over it. Well, no, depression is more than just I'm having a sad moment. It's literally I can't function. It takes everything sometimes just to get out of bed. There's days where I don't even brush my teeth because it's just too much effort. Depression is so hard.
It was it was so difficult, and especially because so many people did not understand what I was going through. And in some cases, they made me even feel like I was being selfish, because they was like, well, you're not the only one that's grieving. But
right.
The depression I felt was different, and that comes from trying to understand that everyone grieves differently, and depression is not something that you can easily get over with. Like you said, like it's hard to get out of bed. It's hard to make yourself continue to go through the motions of everyday life when depression takes hold of you.
Yeah, it's like living and walking through a bowl of Jell-O. It's foggy, it's cloudy, you can't really function, you can't really move. It's just, it just knocks you down. So, what did you do? How were you able to finally get out of the depression?
I was finally able to get out of the depression when I admitted that I needed help, and I sought the help of a clinical social worker.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt good to be able to talk to someone else who didn't necessarily know me, but still could understand what I was going through and also give a non-biased opinion and support.
Yeah.
They didn't make me feel guilty. They didn't make me feel like I just need to hurry up and get over it. It was definitely a process. And it was something that let me know it's okay, that what I was feeling was okay, but there was help available.
That is so important. I'm glad that you had the foresight to seek out professional help. Most of us don't. I didn't. I didn't with either one of my parents. I didn't when my best friend died. I haven't with Mark either. But I think with Mark, at least, I'm in a place where I understand more. about dealing with grief and stuff, and I'm able to talk to people. I at least have a support group where I can just, reach out and say, I just, I miss his smile. I miss the little things. I miss this. I miss that. And they get it. It's tough when you're going through any kind of trauma and your support system can't understand because it's not something that they've ever gone through, and unless you've lost a parent or lost a spouse or, whatever it is, you truly can't understand what somebody else is going through. But that's not the end of your trauma there now, is it?
No, that's not. So during the process of healing and learning how to handle the grief from my mother, I also ended up going through a divorce, and I also had a miscarriage. And at this point, I really felt like a failure because growing up, they teach girls to become grown-up women. They go to college, get good jobs, and get married and have babies. So here I am, divorced. I had a miscarriage, finished college, but not finding the job in my field or that I really wanted. And I felt like a failure as a woman. So it's like depression is just like, guess what? I'm back and you're going to have to deal with me. And so knowing what I've done before, I continue to seek the help of a social worker, continue to keep my appointments. And some days it was harder than others. I just wanted to counsel. I didn't want to talk. But I pushed myself to go there. And what I found is I had lost myself in being the strong person for everyone else and always being the yes person and the people pleaser. I had to learn to say yes to myself and no to them. I had to learn that it's okay not to be strong all the time, and it's okay to cry or have a weak moment or even have a bad day.
I actually apologize to my kids and my stepmom. She lives with me. I'm her caretaker, and I apologize to all of them in advance. I said, look, I don't know what I'm going to go through. I don't know, how I'm going to be from one moment to the next, but I'm going to apologize now for all the times that I turn into a raving lunatic and a complete bitch, and I'm just mean as all get out for no apparent reason. So I was like, I knew this was coming, and I'm going to apologize in advance. But yeah, you never know from one minute to the next how you're going to be feeling. And, it's with the grief and dealing with the loss, and then you've got the depression on top of it. It feels like you're drowning sometimes.
I absolutely was drowning, and I felt like it was no lifeguard for me. There was no float or anything, and I seriously can't even swim, so I was definitely drowning. And there was no one there to save me. It's like I had to learn how to save myself and also be okay with who I am and know that, okay, so today is one of those days and I just need everyone to leave me alone for a few minutes and let me have my moment.
Okay, so you just touched on something that is so important. And you said, I had no one to save me, I had to save myself. And that is one of the most empowering things that anybody can learn, is that you can't rely on other people to save you. You have to do this yourself. People can't grieve for you. You have to do the grieving. You have to do the getting up and the pushing yourself to go do whatever it is you have to do. And that is so crucial when we're healing from trauma, is to realize that, we can't wait for that life preserver or that the ring to be tossed out to us. It's sink or swim, baby. So the fact that you recognize that and you were able to learn that is fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic.
Yes, it was definitely a struggle, not an easy
Yeah.
process.
No.
Even sometimes today, I still have to remind myself it's okay. Or, look, you got this. You can do this. No one else is coming.
Yeah. Um, yeah. And it doesn't go away. And that's what people don't often understand with loss or with trauma is that we don't get over it. We just learn how to live with it. It never goes away. It becomes a part of us, and we learn to grow ourselves around it and live with the fact that this trauma exists within us, and it's there. And every once in a while, it's going to rear its ugly little head, and it's okay. It's okay when it does. And if you have to take a moment and break down and cry, then that's what you got to do. And if people around you can't understand that, then they need to go on somewhere.
And that's another important factor, though, is learning who to surround yourself with. Because trust me, there's some people I've had to remove from my life. It's like you're doing a purge and cleaning out your life. So, like, you sort the people. Okay, I need to keep you in my life because you're good, you're understanding, you're encouraging, and then you see these other group of people, they're negative and discouraging, or they're not even trying to help or understand. So you need to distance yourself from them, because those people can actually make the depression worse.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Because then you get into the game of whose stuff is worse, right? Who's feeling the worst? Who's the brokest? Who's this? Who's that? You fall into that. It's like an opposite keeping up with the Joneses. Instead of all the good stuff, it's like who's got the worst bad story here? And it does. It keeps you in a place of just stuckness.
Yes, it's like I've been in that position where I would try to talk to someone about how I was feeling and what was going on, and they would tell me everything about them. It's like they turned the whole conversation around to make it about them, and it was never nothing to help me, but they wanted me to help them. It wasn't a mutual beneficial relationship.
And I'm guilty of that. I am guilty of that, and I am aware that is something that I have done in the past, and that if I'm, if I don't keep it in check, I can do. And I think it's common, and I don't think a lot of people do it intentionally, but it's like, somebody posts, hey, my dog died. And everybody wants to say, I'm so sorry. I just lost my dog, last year or last month or whatever, and all of a sudden they're turning it about them, but they're trying to be comforting, and they just aren't doing it in the right way. Now, there are those that absolutely just want to take over and make everything about them, and that's because they've got their own issues, But yeah, you have to distance yourself from those people. They're toxic.
And it's completely okay. I know sometimes we'll hear people tell you to suck it up or just deal with it, or you can't remove everyone from your life. And that's exactly the toxic person you want to remove, because you don't have to deal with anything you don't want to deal with, and you can choose who to surround yourself with.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. If there's one thing that I have learned is that, regardless of the trauma, we all have to grieve and heal at our own pace, in our own way. And what works for one person doesn't necessarily work for another. And there is no right way or wrong way, unless you fall down the path of, heavy drinking and drugs or something like that. But, you have to do it your own way. And if those people just can't understand, then, you have to distance yourself from them. And that is hard,
Absolutely.
especially when they're family. And
Oh,
I've had
that's
to
the
do that.
hardest.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had to do that. And that is the hardest when they're family. But it can be done. So, um, what have you learned through this whole process, with losing your mom, losing the baby, losing your marriage? What is probably one of the biggest things that you've been able to learn from it in order to move forward with your life and get back that thriving?
One of the biggest things I've learned is to always take time out for myself. So many times, especially as women, we get caught up in serving and helping other people that we neglect ourselves. We don't
Mm-hmm.
take time out for self-care. We don't take time off just mental days to be to yourself or to even do something that you love to do rather than doing something for everyone else all of the time. So I learned to schedule time for myself. Like I would literally, like on my schedule, my planner is Tandee time or quiet time. So it's just for me, whether I want to sit back and read my favorite book, watch my favorite show, or even go get a manicure, pedicure, whatever I choose to do, it's up to me because that's my time. And I put my phone on do not disturb and just leave it at that.
Nice. That is a very, very important lesson. And you're right. We don't take time for ourselves, because we are too busy taking care of everybody else. I mean, look at, in the beginning when your mom first died or passed away, everybody expected you to be the strong person. Well, number one, that was incredibly selfish of them. And number two, that did not allow you to take care of yourself during that time, especially that incredibly important first few weeks where that's when you have to do the real serious, deep grieving.
Yep, I was like, I didn't have the time, because I was focused on everyone else.
Yeah.
And so I had no time for myself. But now I've learned that it's okay to say no and just look after me.
Yep.
And that's like that quote everyone likes to share is you can't serve from an empty cup.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is one of my favorite sayings too. Wow. Thank you so much, Tandee, for coming on and telling us your story and just sharing with us. I really, really appreciate it. And I am very sorry for your losses. I hate saying that because it's like, it just feels so empty, but I completely sympathize. So, but thank you for coming on.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
And ladies, for those of you listening, if you are going through something like this, you're not alone. There is support. There is help. Definitely don't go through whatever you're going through alone. Reach out to somebody. And if you don't have anybody, you have all of us in the Daring Woman community. Head over to Facebook. It's facebook.com/groups/Daring Woman. It's safe haven. What happens there stays there. No judgment, no hate, nothing but love and support. And we're there to help guide you through whatever life has thrown your way. And if you find yourself in a bad spot, with depression or anything like that, and you're really having a hard time or a hard moment, text into the crisis text line. There are certified crisis counselors on standby 24/7, 365, and they're there to help you move through that crisis and find that calm so that you can proceed with your life and whatever needs to be done. So just text HOME, HOME, to 741-741. Completely anonymous. It's all done through texting. So thank you for listening, ladies. We will talk to you next week on the show.